Hello, I'm Chris from TechSpert, and today we're having a rather rapid squint at Asus's fresh new Zenbook S16 2024 edition. It's a gorgeous and surprisingly skinny 16-inch laptop, boasting a lush 3K 120Hz display, bit of beefy AMD Strix performance helped along by some whisper quiet cooling tech, bunch of obligatory clever bollocks AI features, the works. Unfortunately, the Asus Zenbook S16 is only here at TechSpert Towers for just under 24 hours. So I've got to stop banging on, I've got to swap my beers for coffee and just crack on with it. And don't forget to post, subscribe, etc. Asus really going all out for the sustainability. There's even a bit of the box you can reuse as a bookmark, as if I ever actually have the time to read a book. So first impressions of the design is that for a 16-inch laptop, the Zenbook S16 is outrageously slender. At its thickest point, this thing is basically a flea's bell end bigger than 1 centimeter. Frankly, it's a miracle they managed to fit those ports on the actual edges. With that HDMI port in particular, it was a bit of a tight squeeze. But of course, the Zenbook S16 is still a 16-inch laptop, so you're going to struggle to fit it in all but the biggest of backpacks if you've got a bit of briefcase action on the go. And as usual, Asus's design is rather fetching. And you've got a choice of 2 colours, Scandinavian white, and this here, Zamia grey? Grey, basically. And apparently it's constructed from, goddamn you Asus, ceraluminium? Ceraluminium? I swear they bloody do it on purpose. Whatever it is, Asus reckons that it's highly scratch resistant, but also light, and boasts a stone-like textured finish. For me, it kind of feels like I'm stroking paper, which obviously is a completely normal thing to do. And the Zenbook S16 has apparently passed a variety of US military-grade testing to prove that it's a proper hard bastard. And yet it still weighs just 1.5 kilos, which for a 16-inch laptop, pretty bloody good stuff. And as you'll see when you open it up, there's basically no wasted space. That 16-inch screen fills the inside of that lid. And inside that laptop, the sleek, smart design continues. The backlit chiclet keyboard is actually confined towards the center of the laptop, which is a good idea for a 16-incher. You don't want it stretching edge to edge unless you've got number pads and stuff crammed in there. So that touch typing experience is actually still pretty comfy. You've got respectable travel considering how skinny this laptop is, and it's a pretty stiff board as well, not too spongy. Just the usual ball aches like tiny cramped cursor keys and of course a single row enter key. Arrgh. And if you like your touchpads on the big side, you're probably going to get on pretty well with the Zenbook S16, the size of this thing. And the port situation is certainly highly respectable. The Zenbook S16 sports a pair of USB 4 Lightning ports, quite handily advertising the gigabits per second speed they're capable of. You've also got a bit of USB Type A port action around the opposite edge. And yes, thanks to some sort of voodoo, Asus has managed to cram an HDMI port on here, as well as a full-sized SD card reader. But one of the real highlights here on the Zenbook S16 is that almighty, ruddy great big 16-inch Asus Lumina OLED display. It's quite a square aspect ratio, so well suited to creator tasks, web browsing, side-by-side multitasking, all that kind of shenanigans. Not quite as good if you're kicking back with a movie because you'll get some pretty thick letterboxing above and below, but it's a spacious enough panel that it doesn't really matter. Your videos, photos, whatever you're gazing at will look gorgeously crisp and finely detailed thanks to the 3K resolution. And you've got all the usual excellent Asus display features packed on here, including OLED Care to help maximize the lifespan of your screen. You've got flicker-free dimming, and of course you can completely tweak the color output as well. Really boost the colors or manually tweak the color temperature. And you've got specific presets covering the sRGB, DCI P3 and Display P3 gamuts. And that refresh rate maxes out at 120 Hz. Good news if you're going to be doing a bit of gaming on this thing. As for the audio, well, you've got a 6-speaker setup here, spaffing out audio that's been fine-tuned by clever sound boffins en mon cordon. And for such a skinny wee thing, it sure does pump out some pretty beefy audio when you max out that volume. It's getting great news if you are kicking back with a bit of Netflix or whatever. And somehow in that skinny wee top bezel there, Asus has managed to cram a full HD camera. And it'll certainly do the job for a simple bit of video chat. In dimmer light you do look a wee bit grainy, but at least that camera isn't too disturbed by high contrast type situations. And you got a triple mic array, I believe it is, built into the Zenbook S16, which seems to do a pretty good job of picking up your voice, even if you're not speaking particularly loudly. And you've got Asus's AI Sense camera smarts on here as well, which can track your presence, can dim the screen if you happen to look away, and if you bugger off without locking your laptop, well, it'll actually do that on your behalf. And speaking of AI, Asus has even shoved a dedicated Copilot key onto the S16, so you can immediately start chatting with Microsoft's AI companion. Draw me a picture of James Corden in great distress. Well, some companion you are. Maybe it just automatically blocks James Corden, in which case, fair play. And that touchpad is quite a clever wee bugger as well, so if you swipe up and down the left edge, you'll adjust the volume.
Guy is looking very chilled. This is about to drink a beer that's literally bigger than him.
You could also tweak the screen brightness by sliding your finger up and down the right edge. And you can actually skim through a video on the likes of YouTube by swiping the very top edge. Very handy way of just quickly skipping forward and back. Good for replaying all of those classic moments. Now, performance, and the Zenbook S16 is powered by a fresh new bit of AMD Strix Point tech. So fresh, in fact, that at the time I'm shooting this video, it hasn't officially launched yet. Therefore, I don't know what it's called, or indeed anything about it, which is really bloody handy. And I certainly can't benchmark the ruddy thing, which would be a pointless endeavour anyway, as this is a pre-production laptop, not the full retail version. Hopefully I'll get my hands on that for a good week or so I can bring you guys a full review. What I can say though is that Asus has confirmed that before the end of 2024 there will also be a Windows Copilot Plus PC version of the Zenbook S16, so something to look forward to. And that AMD tech is backed in this sample by 32 gigs of RAM and a Radeon GPU. And in my 24 hours with the Zenbook, I managed to squeeze in a quick bit of Hellblade 2, which was certainly interesting. Bit bleak, maybe. Kind of reminded me a bit too much of a wet weekend in South Shields, especially when I was savagely attacked by a random skinhead for no real reason. Regardless, the game played smoothly enough outside of just a couple of quick cutscene judders. And likewise, I was happy enough running loads of apps side by side with a gajillion Chrome tabs open. And again, despite the fact this is a skinny wee bugger, Asus has managed to cram in all kinds of clever cooling tech, including a proper vapor chamber, you've got some graphite sheeting, and you've got a dual fan setup in there as well, which is pleasingly quiet on that whisper mode. Of course, it does get a bit noisier when it's in full-on performance mode, and this laptop is really going for it, but even then, not too horrendous. And you've got a big old grill stretching across just above the keyboard here to help with that airflow situation. So certainly the Zenbook S16 doesn't seem to overheat even when it's under serious duress. As for the battery, well, you've got a 78 watt hour capacity cell crammed again into that skinny chassis. And even this early pre-production model can keep on going for absolutely ages. I'm talking about 12 to 13 hours of mixed use, a good bit of Chrome, Spotify, all kinds of stuff going on. And again, hopefully I'll get the chance to do a proper full-on Zenbook S16 review. I'll fully test out that battery life with a good bit of video editing and all that clever bollock stuff. And that right there, in a delicious wee nutshell, my lovelies, is the first new Asus Zenbook S16. Be great to your thoughts down in the comments below. Please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech. I've got to get this thing wiped and back in the box so it can get picked up and spaffed off to the next tech YouTube twat. Have yourselves a bloody great rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you.